Oh no, from now. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, or in some places, it's already a good night because this is night one of week 10 of the Modern Streamers League, the ultimate week to determine whether Team Fire or Team Ice will claim victory in our first iteration. I'm Sean Seacrease alongside league founder, TheSaintDoom, and I get to welcome back Co-Diamonds Kevin, the Honey Bear Wang. He was here with us on a singleton week. We enjoyed it so much that we're glad to have him back here on night one of week 10. 5 great matchups coming up tonight, guys, including the only push for undefeated in the Modern Streamers League. TheSaintDoom is going to be in the hot seat in round 5 tonight against a master of Grixis Shadow, Dido. He has been an absolute wrecking ball in this league for Team Fire. You've been the same for Team Ice. I'm so eager to get your insights as we crawl up to that feature match coming up in round 5 tonight. The Modern Streamers League is brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. The next time you need something digitally or in cardboard, just hit up Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. They'll make sure you've got all the latest iterations for your tech to take down your next tournament. And of course, guys, our 2 great teams are playing for 2 fantastic charities throughout the season. Team Fire playing for A21, looking to end human trafficking worldwide, and Team Ice playing for the Cancer Research Institute. That means a lot to me because as we go on tonight, forgive me if I blink or maybe miss a play. My own father is under the knife right now, having a rather necessary internal organ removed in order to fight cancer. So if I step away or miss a moment, it'll just be to check on him after that operation. Cancer Research Institute looking to end all forms of cancer worldwide. Guys, it's been a fantastic 9 weeks already. Honey Bear, what are you looking forward to tonight? We're all locked up at 45-45.
I mean, I'm looking forward to all these close matches. It's neck and neck. Literally, we're tied 45-45. So it's going to be exciting to see who wins, and just every match counts. We're going to see neck and neck battles, and we can reflect back on the season as a whole, where one match here, one match there. Like, the tiebreakers come to the point where every match in this whole season counts, not just the second half. So every match matters. So we'll see.
TheSaintDoom, Mike Goldenberg. Mike, it's been right now, if I think back, you've been working on bringing the Modern Streamers League to fruition for a year at this point, as we're deep into week 10. That's how much planning went into it. That's how much background work went into this launch of the Modern Streamers League. Have you realized the goal that you set out for yourself as we head into week 10 and get to look at this fantastic matchup between Team Fire and Team Ice? It's been so close. I'm sure you're going to tell us that you've disassociated the goals that you have when you're playing to what you want from founding the league. But has this been everything that you wanted it to be as we come up on week 10?
Absolutely. There's 2 different goals. There's personal goal and league goal. Personal goal, I never would have guessed I'd be 9-0 in a field this strong. League goal, I am incredibly impressed, again, not just with having this league and having the content and quality of players and hosts that we have in the show, but also the fact that we're getting more and more push for more and more sponsors. We should have at least one more sponsor for the next league, which is just fantastic that I can say there will be a next league. Like, that alone was my goal. So that's been incredibly rewarding, seeing this grow and blossom as a show.
We're going to have 5 matches tonight. That means someone is going to take an edge into the final night of the Modern Streamers League coming up on Wednesday night. Just to set the table tonight, we've got Susurrus taking on Caleb on Storm. That's going to be a fantastic match to lead things off. It'll be Francisco and Cat Light, 2 dynamically different decks going at it. We'll see Garrett Martin on Burn against SpiderSpace in his Feyblade creation. Rob Caster Mage on Jeskai Control. He's going to look to take down his nemesis in this league, in Noble Murloc, on his double time list. And finally, we're going to cap it off with our very own, TheSaintDoom, on his Dreadhorde controlled Dreadhorde Mardu list, looking to take down Dido on Grixis Death Shadow. We're set for a great night tonight. Thank you for joining us. Let's get the forecast of doom for round 1 on night 1 of the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome to the Forecast of Doom on the last Monday of Season 1. I am very, very excited for this particular matchup, mostly because these are two awesome players, two specialists. Something I really like seeing in Modern is how many specialists there are, and we have Sodek, the Dredge specialist, against Caleb, the Storm specialist. Unfortunately, however, if you're looking for interactive magic, this is not the match for that. This will be a sheer race. Because of open deck lists, sideboarding is going to be a little bit easier. Sodek does not have to bring in really as much cards as he normally would because he knows the limited graveyard hate on Caleb's end. And the same thing for Caleb. Caleb knows there's no graveyard hate that Sodek is going to be bringing. There's no ley lines here he has to play around or repeal away. So the key cards I've looked at in the sideboards are Sodek has the 3 Lightning Axe, which can kill Barals. He also has access to Thought Seizes. If he doesn't feel like he can race this matchup, I think Sodek will bring in those Thought Seizes to slow down Storm. If he thinks he can race, he'll keep those in the sideboard. So that is something I think we can really look out for. So this matchup, I'm going to give 70-30 Caleb to Sodek. I think Storm Goldfish is just a little bit faster. Sodek definitely needs some creeping chills and definitely needs a fast board presence. That's the Forecast of Doom. Let's see how it all plays out.
The Forecast of Doom giving the big edge to Storm. If you're looking at a pure race between these two lists, Kevin Wang, it's interesting now because of the arrival of Creeping Chill. Without that card in the 60, this would feel, I think, even more lopsided. Are you on board with SpiderSpace on just how lopsided this could be?
Yeah, because Sodek doesn't really have anything interactive, at least pre-board. Because post-board, he has access to Lightning Axe to kill all the cost reducers. But pre-board, it's just he just has to vomit his whole hand on the table. And with the recent banning of Faithless Looting, I don't know how fast he is able to do it. I know Sodek originally started off with a Tombscar build to replace Faithless Looting, but it looks like in this build he replaced with Insolent Neonate, which has 2 in hand. Hopefully he can get off to the races with the Secretive in hand in combination with it.
We're going to be watching all week this week in the final week of the Modern Streamers League from the perspective of Team Ice. There you see Sodek, the Dredge Master, on your left. Will he go with another Neonate here?
Yeah, and he's actually just looking for a second land, which is kind of rough. He mulled to 5, and he was trying to just draw a card, natural draw off Neonate, even though he pitched a Stinkwitive, which is not where you want to be as a Dredge player. Taking natural draws is not what you want to be doing.
That's where the deck feels too low-powered for Modern. You have these starts where it feels like the best deck, and then you have these mulligan hands where it feels like I'm really running behind now.
Yeah, he just conceded to turn 3 Gifts Ungiven. It's just he can't recover from this because Caleb just has a deterministic draw from here, I think.
No way to remove the cost reducer for Dredge in game 1. That's an early Gifts Ungiven. Now he's going to untap with the gifts package already in hand, a cost reducer, and anything that gets the chain started from there, as you mentioned, going to most likely be deterministic. And now we'll watch Sodek goes for the sideboard. These two players really didn't come into these weeks thinking, I think, too much about this particular matchup. We don't see a lot of sideboard hate, Honey Bear, for either one against the other.
Yeah, I mean, you see Thought Seizes and Lightning Axes. Thought Seizes obviously try to strip a Gifts Given or a combo piece. I mean, Lightning Axes for the cost reducers, but everything else, like Ancient Grudge, Nature's Claim, it seems like those are more anti-hate, and Ancient Grudge might be a hedge against Urza. But Blaststone doesn't even kill Empty the Warrens tokens if Caleb keeps them in. So it's there's no Damping Spheres for Storm that I know Dredge sometimes runs. But nothing really available. He just has to hope Caleb just mulligans to Oblivion and kills him quick enough to get there.
Sodek, hopefully he won't have to take another mulligan in this game. We do see him take one quick one. Will this be good enough? While he mulls that over, Kevin Wang, you mentioned anti-hate when we were talking about sideboarding. When it comes to hate, there seems to be sort of proactive hate, sort of the way you would bring in Trinisphere against a deck that's looking to use all of its one-drops in order to slow them down. That's just one example. And then you have the idea of Nature's Claim, where that's the sort of anti-hate technology. You want to answer your opponent's hate. Neither one of these decks had a lot of direct hate for the opposition strategy. And so how much you want to dilute your engine, because at their base level, both Storm and Dredge are engine decks. How much do you want to dilute that to guess what your opponent's bringing in?
I guess it just depends on how bad the matchup is, because I feel like Sodek, he brought in 6 cards, 3 Lightning Axes, 3 Thoughtseizes. I think if the matchup is that bad, you kind of do have to overboard, because you kind of do have to stop what your opponent's doing to even have a shot, just because your game plan just doesn't align well with what your opponent is doing.
There we see the Cathartic Reunion trying to sculpt the graveyard to set up a quicker game. Now this is interesting. Caleb looking for that second land, finds it. Mm-hmm. That was almost the big stubble that Sodek was looking for as a way to really turn the pressure up.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's hard to say that if he is searching for lands or not. I kind of want to know, because someone mentioned last week that Caleb is really good at hiding his land drops and hiding the contents of his hand. And it's hard to tell. I think that might be the correct read, but he might also just be playing up right away and maybe just kind of concealing, he does have lands, he's trying to conceal that information. So that's just how good of a Storm player Caleb is, where he's kind of going the next level and maybe even trying to bluff Sodek into thinking he is land light.
And I think that if I remember the correct week, I believe it was week 7 that we watched from Team Fire's perspective, where Caleb did an outstanding job of just what you were talking about, hiding the contents of his hand while he was going through drawing additional cards. So it could be the same play here. He's certainly looking at a strong mid-game setup, but this game a little bit different contextually, because we see Dredge does have some pressure on board now.
Yeah, this game looks a little better for Sodek. I kind of want to mention something about Conflagrate, where Faithless Looting getting banned took away Dredge's huge late game. And Faithless Looting be able to discard like Stranded Narcobemus for an upgraded card, or even just dredging, replacing with their Dredge, is what made Dredge such a great late game powerhouse. And now the deck has to rely on Conflagrates to discard these late game, these like drawn Bloodghast Narcobemus that are kind of stranded in the hand. So it's interesting to see him have a Conflagrate in the graveyard, but his hand is kind of light here. So he doesn't really have that late game push that Faithless Looting could have given him before the pre-ban.
This is also one of the matchups where Storm can really read the board and push its fundamental turn later, because he doesn't have to worry about instant speed interaction from Sodek in the form of counter spells or taxing effects. So he can really sculpt, and sometimes that one extra turn to know that, look, I can just look at the board, see what the projected life total I'm going to be at between the board and possible haste creatures out of the graveyard. And if this isn't the killing turn, well, I can just set up one more turn.
Caleb set up a grape shot, killing 2 neonates, and Sodek not having a dredger in hand was kind of rough, but he drew an imp off the first neonate discard, and then he dredged the second one, and hitting a creeping shell was pretty clutch. His board presence still is a 2-turn clock, so Caleb still has probably one more turn to see if he can dig out of this aggressive start from Sodek.
Yeah, this has been a much more up-tempo start from Dredge here in Game 2. Game 1 went quickly to Caleb on Storm, as Sodek had a couple of mulligans to open and never really found traction in that Game 1. Game 2 has been much different, even after one mulligan here for Sodek and Team Ice. And we're tied 45-45 heading into this final week of the Modern Streamers League. Sodek looking to put Ice on top. Every match matters, because this is essentially a best out of 10 unless we end in a tie.
Yeah, Sodek here is just 1 point short, which is unfortunate. Yeah, the configure in hand with only 3 cards in hand. So that mulligan actually hurt. That one card that he had to put away was the difference maker here.
Can Caleb, the Storm Master, put together the win from this spot? We've certainly seen Caleb Scherer dig out of big spots.
Sodek is giving a prayer right now.
There's the cost reducer. Will we see a ritual to start the chain? There's one. And another.
Caleb's clicking fast. Oh, and there's the fast flames.
Sodek rock back chair. That one card you mentioned, the mulligan, could be the difference right here between a win and a loss.
Like I was saying in the pre-show, where like that one mulligan, like that one card that would have just swayed this game. Like he Sodek had a chance to go to a game 3, and that could have made a difference here. But unfortunately, that mulligan just hurt way too much.
So from one life to a concession on the very next turn where he knew he had Caleb Scherer dead on board. We talked about it. Sean Seacrease along with Kevin Wang and TheSaintDoom. Mike Goldenberg joins us again for the post-match analysis. SaintDoom, you heard us mention it. It's that one extra turn that Storm gets with open deck lists where they know on the turn that they want to go off, there is no interaction to stop them. And when you have complete knowledge like that, it's such an advantage. And I think we just saw Caleb Scherer leverage all of that in the win.
Absolutely. Caleb's great at leveraging all those tiny little things. We saw a neat little trick from Sodek at the end there. It may have looked like, well, there's no point in putting him to 1 there, but putting him to 1 stopped him from tapping the Shivan Reef for colored mana, stopped him from shocking in with the Steam Vents. Maybe he needed 1 more land to go off. He didn't, but Sodek was putting him to 1 with intent. It wasn't because it wasn't revealing everything. It was actually trying to limit the amount of ways that Caleb would kill him on the next turn. But Caleb just had everything there, so I get to press this button, unfortunately, which puts Team Fire up 46 to 45.
I mean, it just shows that like Sodek is a master, and even in a bad matchup, he gave every chance he could to give himself the best chance to win, even though it didn't come out with the W. You got to give yourself the best chance to win, right? So he did the best he could, and like I said, that mulligan just hurt so much. That mulligan literally cost him the game.
It was brutal because we saw mulligan to 5 in game 1, mulligan to 6 in game 2. And Kevin, you just pointed out that mulligan in game 2 did cost him that game with the point that he could have looked at the conflict rate for the finish. Game 1 in round 1 goes to Team Fire. Game 2 goes to Team Fire. And in, let's be honest, a hail of fire from Caleb Scherer. Team Fire is up 46-45 after 1 round here this evening. Coming up, it's going to be match 2. It'll be Cat Light, Hellcat MTG on her beloved blue-white Spirits deck. Will she be able to slow down Francisco and Karn Amulet? We could have a combo kill. We could have a tempo kill. Round 2. It comes up next on this, the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have a very exciting one here. We have Catlight on Blue-White Spirits and Francisco on Amulet Titan featuring Karn. The full name that I've named this deck in my MTGO collection is Amulet Titan Karn Red Field, because it runs Field of the Dead. It's got the red splash, it's got Karn, it's got Amulet Titan. There's just so many different ways to splash Amulet Titan, but that's a conversation to have with Francisco the next time we have him on, because there's a million different versions of Amulet, a million different ways to splash it. I will say Francisco's version being the red splash makes him better against this blue-white spirits list, because Abrade is really good against Spellqueller and also really good against Batterskull. Now, this matchup, Game 1, I think Game 1 is a game that Kat has the best chance in. It's her best matchup. She has to lean on her 3 paths and her 4 Spellquellers and out-tempo the Amulet Titan deck. Once Primetime hits the table, unless she's got a board full of spirits and a way to stop engineered explosives, she's going to be in a lot of trouble. However, I will say a good deal of her creatures fly, which is very, very hard for Calney Garden, Tokens, Azusa, and Primetime to block. This is clearly a tempo verse ramp deck, so that's what we're going to see in Game 1. Post-board, Francisco is going to become a control deck with all those removal spells. He's just going to have the best finisher, as Punt and Wine likes to put it, the best finisher of all in Primetime. Kat does have access to a couple more cards. For example, she does have Disdainful Stroke, a 4th Path to Exile, and some Geist of Saint Traft, which will help her try to out-tempo and smash in real quick and have Francisco's life total get down to 0 as fast as possible. Francisco has those 3 Abrades I mentioned before, another Engineered Explosives, a Reclamation Sage, and a Hornet Queen, which he can bring in for this particular matchup. If he's worried about Kat knocking down his life total too much, you might even see that Obstinate Baloth come in from the side. Overall, I do think Francisco is favored in this matchup, probably about 60-40. Kat really needs to win Game 1 and then be able to be on the play for a Game 3 here. So that is the Forecast of Doom. Let's see how it all plays out.
The synergy of blue-white spirits, the raw power of this Karn Amulet deck, they're going to meet right now here in round 2 tonight. This is night 1 of the Ultimate Week, Week 10 of the Modern Streamers League. Sean Seacrease joined by Co-Diamonds, Kevin the Honey Bear Wang in his return engagement. Kevin, thank you so much to your agent who freed you up for this and made you available, and for your representatives who took the extra meetings to find the time to get you back on. We appreciate it.
Thank my girlfriend for letting me stream. We're supposed to eat dinner.
Is where we really got the okay to bring you on here this evening.
I actually have a gripe about this matchup here. I'm a huge fan of Kat, but I don't think it's fair to call her deck blue-white spirits anymore, because I feel like half of her deck isn't spirits anymore. It's like Thalia, Giver Ruin, Stoneforge Mystic, and Unsullied Mariner is kind of a cop-out as a spirit.
So more of a spirit prison style deck, or is this sort of leaning towards hate bears? You see that in Legacy a lot. It comes and goes in Modern. This almost starts to feel like a little bit of a spirit hate bear synergy.
Yeah, it's kind of a mishmash of like blue-white taxes and like spirits. It's a cool take. I like it. Oh, and Francisco coming in with the 0-1 beatdown over here. Look at he's talking trash to the message.
In the chair for Team Ice just off to our left. And as these two players develop their early turns, you can look just below us this evening and see your chance to help develop 2 great causes around the world. Team Fire playing for A21, looking to end human trafficking worldwide, and Team Ice playing for the Cancer Research Institute. Any donation that you could make would be appreciated and have a great effect on the mission of those 2 great charities. So Francisco goes for the amulet, gets it out. His ramp strategy is coming together, and we're looking at a possible Primeval Titan coming up next turn.
Yeah, he is kind of missing some pieces. I'm not an amulet player, so I might be way off. I may need to be corrected, but he has an Azusa in hand, but he doesn't have an amulet with a combination with Balance Sense, so I think he's far off Primeval Titan with the Coalition Relic. So he has a Coalition Relic. So he can actually cast the next turn, yeah.
So he'll have the next turn, but the lands won't have the trigger off the Amulet to untap. But just the Titan in and of itself, I think, is going to be a huge threat for Cat, because it's going to fix his mana base however he wants to set it up. And remember, he's playing the extra colors, so that'll help him develop whatever setup he wants. He does have the Amulet, so mana in and of itself, as far as colors go, isn't the problem. Maybe it's how much of it. But we do know Cat, she does have access to Path to Exile, 3 in the main deck. That could be a key answer if he goes for Titan.
Yeah, like playing against any Spirits deck, like Spell Queller is such a big beating because she can protect it with the Lords, and Spellcraft doesn't do much once Francisco has the mana to cast a Titan, because she can't Spell Queller it. So she's forced to path it. But by the time she passes Primeval Titan, Francisco will already get the lands. He'll be able to fetch a Tolarian West to get another Titan with Summoner's Pact. So once Francisco kind of gets the ball rolling, I think it kind of snowballs out of effect. So we'll see how much Cat can recover from it.
That was a huge Deputy of Detention. It essentially soaked up a Soul Ring on the other side of the board, as Amulet, of course, can make 2, or Coalition Relic. I said Amulet, but Relic can make the 2 mana in the quick burst if you want to deploy it that way. Certainly, Francisco would have chosen to deploy the Titan in that situation. Had to go for the Azusa. Felt a little weak, but now I think we're going to see him in a situation where he can start leveraging some of these mana-based synergies, as well as think about the Titan coming up.
Yeah, now that bounce land was actually his best draw he could ask for, because he goes from 4 to 6, and with the Azusa, he doesn't waste any time getting all the lands to play for 6 mana for Titan next turn. So now Cat really needs a path next turn. She has a Canopy land, so she could try to draw into it. So in the next 2 draws, she is probably going to try to dig for one. And her clock is kind of anemic. It's only 4 power on board.
Yeah, that combined with the fact that one of the tools that we often see in these Bant creature good stuff decks is Collected Company, and Cat going straight blue-white, she's not using that style of technology to help her get some 2-for-1s.
I think Cat's Bill of Spirits is actually even worse against a deck like Amulet, because Unsettled Mariner doesn't really do anything. It's just a bear in this matchup. Mm-hmm. Spell Queller's kind of a blank, because if you were to play Bant, you could try to like turn 2 Spell Queller like an Azusa on the play, or even on the draw, because that's really the only target that's around a 3-drop in the Amulet deck that you kind of want to hit. Other than that, it's just kind of rough for her, because she can't really interact on the axis of the Titan deck's trying to do here.
And even if she has the path for this Titan you mentioned, it'll be yet more ramp for Francisco. And I love this interaction that the Titan deck has in a corner case. And maybe I'm overstating how rarely it's used by calling it a corner case. It may be a much more reliable line, in that they can use Titan to go get whatever land they would like in their hand, put it on the board, and then use the bounce land to put it back into their hand where they would prefer it. Lands like a Tolarian West, where they can then cycle it off. So a lot of different angles open to these Titan decks once they get to this point of development.
Yeah, and I think Francisco top decking the Simic Growth Chamber is clutch, because just that blue mana that he doesn't have to spend with the Gemstone Mine either. Oh, and Cat with the path, so that's clutch there. But like I said, Francisco just bouncing the Tolarian's back, being able to read up plan everything.
And the Summoner's Pact in his hand, and that Tolarian Waste, of course, represents another Summoner's Pact if he would so choose. So Hunting Bear right now, yes, that's one path from Cat, but Francisco looks like he's got the well up and rolling.
Mm-hmm. And Michael mentioned in the Forecast of Doom where Cat's deck has a lot of flyers going to go, but me calling her deck not really a Spirits deck and having a lot of ground creatures, the Calling Augur token is actually putting a lot of work being able to block. And oh my god, an Amulet off the top.
I think we're going to have second path check on Cat's hand coming up right now, because with this Amulet, I believe that he can go for the Titan, make Titan, give it haste.
Yeah, I wonder if Francisco should have left off with a Summoner's Pact first, just to beat the Spell Queller, so you know the Amulet resolves. Because I think he can play Amulet, Transmute, and play Titan, and in one turn, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so he could have done everything. So I wonder if it was correct just to play the pack first, just to bait the Spell Queller.
We're going to see now. Kat would love to have Spell Queller, and if she doesn't, then it's going to be, I believe, path or bust in this situation, as Francisco has a wide open board. There are no blockers back, and Kat has neither Spell Queller nor Path to Exile, and she concedes on the spot. Francisco, impressive, because we talked about Kat's creatures, Kevin, being a little bit anemic early in those turns, but she was starting to mount an offense there and create a clock. But now we see the combo synergy from these Titan decks.
Yeah, and post board, Francisco getting access to Hornet Queen, just being able to just block all of Kat's threats is just going to be absurd. Because she might be able to give Hexcrypture Spirits, but they don't give protection to Death Touch. So having 5 Death Touch flyers is going to be pretty clutch here. From Kat's side of the sideboard, I know she has 1 Path on the board and 1 Disdainful Stroke, and I think that's really all the tools she really has for this matchup. And even then, Francisco has, I think...
see the Ceremonious Rejection as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how good Ceremonious Rejection is. I guess it can counter Walking Blessings and Explosives. I guess that would be a good card to counter. And as well as the Amulet, obviously, on the play.
And Karn's colorless.
Oh, and Karn too.
So
I guess that's the way we talked about open deck lists. I kind of forgot that Francisco. I was just trying to remember. I forgot that Francisco had Karn in his deck. I'm so focused on the Amulet aspect of the deck. But it's interesting that he boarded out that Karn's post board.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far to play around what Kat is trying to do, but certainly with the experience that Francisco has with the deck, trumps anything that I have knowledge-wise about it. But the 3 Abrades that TheSaintDoom pointed out in the Forecasted Doom coming in for Francisco, we'll see how early and how often Francisco is able to find those Abrades, because it's certainly going to be a tempo-positive play against Kat.
Yeah, I mean, I trust everything that Francisco does in Amulet. And I think just based on that play where I was saying, oh, she should bait out, he should play the Summoner's Pact first to bait out the Spell Queller. I think that shows that from the Amulet side, I think they're valuing the Summoner's Pact, the second Titan, more than an actual Amulet, which makes sense because I feel like once you land a Titan, then you're kind of just going to win the game over the course of 1 or 2 years. Like, he doesn't need to win the game that turn. So the Amulet isn't that necessary, I guess, for Francisco versus the second Titan, because Kat could have like 3 paths in her hand, and that's when Francisco really wants the other Titan, right? So just based on that play, I guess the Amulet player values the Summoner's Pact more than the Amulet.
And bad news for Team Fire. This hand for Francisco, even with as little exposure as I've had to Karn Titan decks, looks more than solid to me. With the first turn ramp possibility, you've got Ancient Stirrings in hand. Azusa is ready to come down. The Abrade is already in hand. He's got the sweeper with EE. There's just a lot of control available in this hand to Francisco.
Yeah, that was an interesting path here. I guess Kat is really scared of Francisco to just ramp into a Titan, but I would be more scared of the actual Primeval Titan more than the ramp, but I could be wrong here from the Spirit side.
And interesting from Francisco as well. He would love to have that Abrade available online, but with as many lands as the Amulet Titan decks have at their disposal, the ability to go get basic Mountain was not one of them. We see 2 snow-covered forests, 2 forest, and then all the other lands are specialty lands, so that path not going to be able to bring him anything except more green mana.
And this is an awkward Ancient Stirrings here where Francisco kind of wants another land for Azusa, but he doesn't want this. Like, Amulet players don't want the Slayer Stronghold in hand. They want to tutor up with a Primeval Titan. And that's a cute play by Francisco to Vesuva the opposing Seachrome Ghost, because he might want the blue mana later on for Talair Rest and stuff like that.
Well, he also has Engineered Explosives already in hand. Now he's going to be able to set 1 to 3, and there he does draw the Teleria West naturally. So the only thing he's without at this moment is red mana for the Abrade. He knows about the Batterskull, obviously, from the Stoneforge Mystic. So I think where Francisco chooses to go here is going to be interesting.
I mean, in my Jund match, Francisco gave me a lot of dirt for my horrible Jund mana base, and then we see his with double basic forest and a bunch of colorless lands. So this is dig back at you, Francisco.
The viling in of the Batterskull by the Stoneforge Mystic, and now the offense is online for Cat. How long will that last is the question. She would love a third mana and then to hold up Spellqueller to prevent a Braid coming up from Francisco possibly. We'll see what lines are available to Cat. We've seen Cat here in the second half of the season have some mana base issues as far as drawing a correct mix of lands as far as threats and lands go, being bottlenecked on being able to deploy them. So we'll see how Cat's deck continues to come together in this matchup. There's a key piece for Francisco, Kevin.
The Amulet has arrived. And the thing about Cat's clock here is it's just a Batterskull. And me playing Absent, I of course tried Stoneforge Mystic post unban, and Batterskull is just not where you want to be in these uninteractive matches. You want to clock on turn 2, you want to beat face. And Batterskull attacking on turn 4 at the earliest is just not fast enough in a matchup like against Primeval Titan decks, because by the time Cat can start attacking and make a dent in Francisco's life total, he's already going to be able to go up to 6 lands at this point and be able to just start casting Titans that can just block a Batterskull token.
The EE coming in being set to 0, that'll take care of the Germ token, and then the Batterskull will have to be equipped. It equips for 5 and picks up for 5, so Cat is a ways away from using those features of the legendary Batterskull.
Yep, and now she could return the Batterskull to hand, and then redeploy the Batterskull next turn, and then attack again the following turn after that. But that's just so slow. Francisco just has all the time in the world against just a squire, a Cat.
Yeah, that 5 I'm alluding to is the pickup and deploy, the 2 for Stoneforge Mystic. So it does eat up a 2-turn cycle, as you pointed out, in order for her to get back on that Batterskull train. And that really doesn't feel good because, as you mentioned, this isn't even the card where you would prefer to be at in this matchup. So soaking up 2 turns just to redeploy, that can't be sort of the A strategy that Cat's hoping to come together right now.
Mm-hmm. And his Braid is just sitting in Francisco's hand, just waiting to just kill all that 5 turns worth of work that Cat put into that Batterskull.
Yeah, the next land that pops up for Francisco is going to mean Titan, and then additional lands off the Titan trigger. And here we see that land coming in. It's going to be a Colony Heart Garden, and it's going to come into play untapped thanks to the Amulet, and that's going to mean Titan. This can't be Spellquellered, so we would think it would be at least the trigger off the enter. We do know that Cat has a Disdainful Stroke out of the sideboard available. What answers could she have here?
It's a stroke. I mean, that's answer number 1, but does she have answers to the second the second Titan, Pseudo Titan, the Summoner's Pact in Francisco's hand? Does she have Spellqueller? Does she have another path? Because that's the only Disdainful Stroke out of Cat's sideboard.
The 75, yeah.
Oh, is she tapping out? Oh, she's tapping out. See, I actually like Geisting Traft in this match that she brought in, because it's that quick clock that she needs. It's just sad because it's just she played it on turn 6. Though it's a little too slow. If she was able to cast it on turn 3 on the play, she might have had a chance. But on turn 6, it was just not fast enough.
Well, and the real killer for Cat there, if she uses the Singleton Disdainful Stroke and then has to pass without developing her board at all, that may have just been a losing line to take right there. So even deploying this late, I think, is better than just passing with mana up, because there are so many spells in the Amulet list that Spellqueller just can't hit. And I think we see Cat go for aggression here, knowing she's got a little bit of room at 24 life. And yes, Dice to Saint Traft hits hard, but sometimes, Kevin, you just got to play the cards that you have.
Yeah, and Cat just has to put a clock on the board. She can't just waste 2 turns bouncing Batterskull and redeploying. She has to get a 6-point attacker. And Francisco with the cute tech of Field of Dead and doing the little pew-pews with Field of Dead triggers on the stack. Francisco is looking pretty happy getting the W for Team Ice.
Two quick concessions once we saw the Titan Amulet deck really get the train rolling and pull out in front. And speaking of pulling, that's going to be Francisco pulling things all even at 46 apiece. Before I bring in TheSaintDoom for a moment, I'm going to give Kevin Honeybear Wang one last chance to take a shot at Francisco, who took a shot at your Jund mana base. I guess the mana is so good for 4-color Titan that they could afford Fields of the Dead, another colorless land in this build.
5-color Titan.
If you'd like to take a shot, Honeybear, that's your last chance.
I mean, I really can't. I don't even want to fit a Ghost Quarter in my Jund mana base. And Amulet runs Slayer Stronghold and Sunhome, whatever. It's like, come on, man. Field of the Dead. Never punished, just never punished.
It's not that.
Wait, a 6/6 Trampler attached to a double demonic tutor. You can get away with some stuff, Doom.
It's not actually just that. So I've actually spent, when I first picked up Amulet Titan, the first thought I had was this mana base is atrocious, and I like working with mana bases. So I was like, I'm gonna fix this. The only thing Amulet Titan consistently needs is green mana. Right? So you can play Azusa, so you can play Scout, so you can play Ancient Stirrings. Ancient Stirrings is a heck of a card because it lets you dig 5 deep to get a Gemstone Mine or a bounce land to fix your color needs. The color needs of Amulet Titan are actually really slim. Sure, you need double blue to activate Teleria West. Sure, you need double green to cast Primetime, who's a 6-drop. If you don't have double green by turn 6, I mean, there's something wrong, right? But the mana base is actually decent. It's actually pretty good because of Gemstone Bind, because of those bounce lands which give 2 colors, because of a lot of things like that. And when you really get down and look at it, you really can afford to have so many colorless lands when you're running 29 lands in a deck. Because then if let's say Jund, you're running 24, so you now have 5 free slots for spells that are also lands. That's your Ghost Quarter, that's your Slayer Stronghold, that's your Sunhome. So I think the mana base on Amulet Titan is not perfect. You will lose games because of that, but it doesn't need double black turn 3 for Liliana of the Veil. While also needing double red for a Seasoned Pyromancer or an Anger of the Gods or a Raging Ravine, and also needing as much green mana as possible for Scavenging Ooze. So the deck doesn't need, sorry for a little tangent here, the deck doesn't need that many colored sources.
Well, I remember when you first started trying to tweak the mana base, I remember you're venting to me about how you didn't have enough turn 1 green sources for your Sakura Tribe Scout. And you're just like, this doesn't have green sources. Mm-hmm. This deck is awful. Well, and I guess your mind has changed.
There still isn't enough green sources to accurately, to consistently cast Sakura Tribe Scout on turn 1. That's just math. I do think the New Mulligan rule helped that a lot. I also have accepted the fact that a turn 2 Sakura Tribe Scout is usually good enough. Turn 1 Calendly Guard and turn 2 Sakura Tribe Scout with an Amulet and a bounce land in hand, you're still going to Titan on time. So
even then, like you can still turn 4 Titan. Like I think that's your end goal. You're not trying to hit a 3-drop. You're trying to hit your Titan on an earlier turn.
Yeah.
So you might not be able to cast your Scout on turn 1, but your end goal of casting a Titan earlier on is still reachable.
Yes. You do not need a turn 1 Scout to do that, especially with cards like Azusa, which you don't even need to cast sometimes till turn 3 anyways. So you can do tap land, play Azusa, dump your hand, turn 4, Titan, against a lot of matchups. That's still good enough.
And even like, I don't know how many of the Titan lists run Utilians, but stuff like Bojuka Bog, like you want to cast it and just be like, I think that's such a valuable resource. Maybe not now in the current state of Modern, but like before when all the graveyard decks were around. Being able to instant speed Bojuka Bog is, I think, one of the cute but also very important tools that the Amulet list have that Sakura Tribe Scout offers.
Yep. Also, negating and countering a removal spell on a land, it makes Field of Ruin look really silly when you bounce the target, flash in a bounce land to bounce the target that's being fielded, and your opponent just wastelanded themselves and spent 2 mana and did nothing.
The Titan tech turns out to be too much for Spirits here in round 2. And so we're tied up at 1-1 tonight, 46-46 overall. Of course, the MSL brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. Check them out for your latest needs for your modern tech, whether it's digitally or you're going to play live tabletop coming up very, very soon. We're going to have more coming up. We're going to have one of our potential grindy matchups tonight, Burn and Feyblade. Can Garrett Martin get things going against a deck that's going to deal some damage to itself? Maybe Bitter Blossom not at its best against a deck looking to burn you out, or will this game go a little bit longer and get grindy? We'll see how this matchup works out as round 3 comes up next with the forecast of doom to lead us into the showdown. It's all here on the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have a real fun-looking one here. Esper Feyblade against Boros Burn. Now, this Burn deck has a main board Smash to Smithereens, which is a really good meta call, I will say, and was really good against me, and is going to be really good here against SpiderSpace. Game 1, SpiderSpace is going to look to drop an early Batterskull off Stoneforge Mystic and ride that to victory, hopefully dodging Skull Cracks and that main board Smash to Smithereens. Post board, kind of like my deck, SpiderSpace does not have much for burn here. We're looking at a Celestial Purge, a Timely Reinforcements, and a Collective Brutality. Burn, on the other hand, can pretty much probably ship back the exact same deck and still have a good matchup here. Or Garrett, you can see Garrett bring in some more Smash the Smithereens or Searing Blazes or some Searing Blood, something to that effect to help slow down this Fairy Storm. I think Garrett is heavily favored here. What did I write down? 70-30, because what you need to beat Burn, as I kind of mentioned last week, is you need to have a decent clock. If you can try and take over the game, as SpiderSpace can with his counter magic, his Force of Negations, his cryptic commands, his spell snares, his spell stutter sprites, SpiderSpace can control this game to a standstill. But if it's turn 12 and you haven't gained any life yet, you're probably dead to Burn. You need to be able to close out the game quickly, which is why Batterskull is so important here. The problem is Garrett is going to know that too, so you can play Stoneforge Mystic, Garrett can bolt the Stoneforge Mystic, and then you're stuck with a 5-drop life gain spell in your hand. So I think Garrett is heavily favored here. That is my prediction, but I'm really rooting for SpiderSpace here. Go Team Ice. Let's see how it all plays out.
Will Garrett Martin get what he lacked last week against the Mardu Dreadhorde control of SpiderSpace? And that is enough threat density to close out the games where he takes an early lead with Burn. Sean Seacrease, along with Co-Diamond's Kevin the Honey Bear Wang. You got to be feeling good about where your team's at coming down the stretch, don't you?
Yeah, it's going to be really close. Looking at SpiderSpace's hand, I was going to say that the way SpiderSpace can hopefully win this game is if you can kind of out-tempo the Burn deck, where you can Fatal Push a Goblin Guide, Spell Sprite something, get a Clock Down, get a Stoneforge Mystic, hope your opponent doesn't remove for it. That's his avenue for victory here. He has the Fatal Push. The Sword of Fire and Ice is kind of a milli-mulligan, and Cryptic Command is kind of slow. So he kind of needs to rely on this Opt to hopefully get him to draw something decent here.
Yeah, he is without any options other than the Opt on this turn. And SpiderSpace, you see him there on our left. He is trying to take down his Burn opposition from Garrett Martin here in round 3. Teferi Time Raveler is an interesting one. Burn's cards still, for the most part, deal 3 damage for 1 mana, but it also constricts when they can play them and the way that they can threaten that lethal damage.
Yeah, and this Teferi is super awkward because SpiderSpace has to take the 2 damage and then bounce it, only for Garrett to just redeploy it, and at that point, SpiderSpace has to also cast something else. And then since Teferi isn't that threatening at that point, him drawing another sword is just super awkward here. He is able to cast a Cryptic Command, so that might do something.
That works around the trigger from Eidolon as well, but he's going to play into it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, playing into an Eidolon is just rough. Like, once you get 2 triggers into the Eidolon, like, so Burn's, like, damage per card rate is on average 3, right? You want to deal 3. You want to deal 3 damage, Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, etc., etc. Once these cards do more than 3 damage, 4, 6 damage, Goblin Guy dealing 6 damage to you, Eidolon doing 6 damage to you, that's when you just can't win from that point, because they pretty much got a 3-for-1 from a Goblin Guide, a 3-for-1 from an Eidolon here. So it's going to be really difficult for SpiderSpace to come out of this. The only way I can see him coming back is if he can top deck a land and slam a Batterskull and kind of recoup that life gain. So we'll see. And the Opt is just so rough against the Eidolon on the board.
Now at 10, SpiderSpace is going to have to decide on his line. He's going to hold up a Rift Bolt. He's going to come off on the upkeep for Garrett Martin. He's holding on to that Cryptic Command, I think, properly evaluating when to use it, because it's going to get around the trigger on the Eidolon being a 4 CMC spell. But how to use it and what modes to select, I think, could see this game turn back into SpiderSpace's favor if he's going to be able to put that tempo together.
Yeah, I mean, one of the modes could be draw a card just to try to draw into a 5th land. He could try to bounce the Eidolon. He could tap the Eidolon, potentially. I guess it's the same as bouncing. You can just redeploy it. So the only real modes is just bouncing, drawing, and I guess he encountering the Ripple, which he did.
Oh, that is a huge land. You see SpiderSpace put the hands together. Is he going to take 2 here, go to 8, and play the Batterskull? I think he knows he probably needs it.
The thing to go back from the early turns is he has a polluted Delta, and he needed a white mana. So him having to fetch Shock to play Teferi on turn 3 was actually pretty bad. Because he could have been at 7 versus the 5.
Skullcrack is going to come down and is going to finish the job on this game. What a series. SpiderSpace got there late, Kevin, and we saw the Eidolon. You talk about it when Red's able to deploy a Goblin Guide and hit you with it twice for 1 mana, get multiple triggers off Eidolon. Suddenly they don't need as many other cards to finish the game, and we saw Eidolon trigger at least 3 times in that matchup.
And in this whole league, I think it's the theme of this whole league where everything is so clutch. If that Polluted Delta was a Flooded Strand or a Marsh Flats for SpiderSpace, fetching a basic plains, SpiderSpace would have been at 1 life after those 2 burn spells. And then he would have been able to attack with the Batterskull, gain 4 life, go back up to 5. But you had to fetch Shock for that Teferi. So it's just these little tiny plays, little tiny straws that, that can just turn the tables here. And SpiderSpace is going to come back and win game 1, which is huge. Because winning game 1 against Burn is pretty clutch because you can guarantee yourself being on the play at least for the 3rd game. In contrast, if you lose game 1, win game 2, you're guaranteed to be on the play on the draw game 3, and that's exactly where Burn wants to be. And trying to beat Burn on the draw is just so difficult.
See, I always have kind of grouped Burn and Dredge together when I think about it like that. Like they're counting on game 1, and if they don't get it, it feels like you've won 2 games and you only need like a half a game to win the match. But when you lose it, you're like, oh, now they're at least going to be on the play on game 3. And yeah, it's just a whole different feeling. You see SpiderSpace doing a quick research with the open deck lists here in the Modern Streamers League. Sean Seacrease along with Co-Diamonds, Kevin, the Honey Bear, Wang, and SpiderSpace. He's not going to have any mana issues this game. But is this going to be enough? He's got the turn 2 Stoneforge if he wants it, and it looks like he's going to rely on that. We know from looking at the sideboards that there are up to 3 more Smash to Smithereens that Garrett could bring in. Now, with just the 1 Batterskull, I don't think he'd bring in all 3, Kevin, but I'd imagine he went up to 2 at least.
Yeah, I mean, I played Legacy Abzan where Stoneforge Mystic was really good against Burn, but it's pretty much, do you have Stoneforge Mystic? Or because you can fetch up your GT or Batterskull, and against Burn, it's just, do you hope they don't have to smash to Smithereens? Because if you don't have Stoneforge Mystic, they'll just race you, and if you have the artifacts to gain you life, then you just win the game from there, because gaining 4 life is just, that can just turn the tables real quick. And like you said early in the game, Garrett had the bolt for the Stoneforge Mystic, so now he has to wait to turn 5 to cast Batterskull. It's kind of rough.
It is, but SpiderSpace doesn't seem as disheartened this game because he's already got the lands in hands where he knows, okay, I can play a little controlling magic the next 2 turns, and I'm going to get Batterskull on 5 if I want it. Is he going to play the Fatal Push here, or are we going to potentially see the surprise exchange with the V-Click? I think there's a lot of ways SpiderSpace can go here.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the click block here. You can kind of save the push for something else. But yeah, he's just going for the push the Eidolon just to guarantee it, because he doesn't want to try to play the click and then get blown out by a burn spell, and he has to take another 2 from the Eidolon to push it anyway.
Replacement Eidolon. Good follow-up for Garrett Martin and Team Fire now. Burn already looking at a win in game 1.
Spider able to cast Cryptic Command without getting any damage to cast. It's pretty clutch as well. But he's going for your line where he wants to block the Eidolon here with a Vidillion click.
No, you're going to have 5 mana next turn, so maybe you don't think about pushing your own skull and going to get it again. Maybe he wants to take another draw from his own deck and push the Stoneforge Mystic. Now, Searing Blood is going to be fantastic for Garrett Martin.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe he should have tapped and drawn, and then so he takes no damage from the Eidolon, and then play the Batter Skull next turn. I mean, that just walks into a Smash to Smithereens. Oh, I guess he's trying to take the Smash to Smithereens out of Garrett's hand.
Smash, Scherer, and Firecraft are a deadly threesome right now with SpiderSpace at 11. There's no good line. You can see the frustration on Spider's face as he looks at the hand and thinks, no matter which one I take, I think I'm dead next turn.
He can do more damage than number finger.
If you were hoping that this was going to get into a back and forth, SpiderSpace dancing on 3 or 4 life, looking for a Batter Skull, it has not gone that way. Burn has really shown its teeth in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't even dealt damage yet, so Spider's going to go down to 7. So he's going to have... Yeah, I think he's just dead if Garrett draws a land. Oh, he can't because he's going to fetch. So he's just dead just based on this information here. Because he has to crack 2 fetches to play the Batter Skull.
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
I think if it goes fetch now, get a tap shock land in... He has to fetch again, and that would put him at 5, and then he is just dead.
Yeah, it's double burn spell. Oh, Mr. SpiderSpace, I am sorry. You just got burned.
Oh,
this has been brutal to watch. And for Garrett Martin is thinking, well, if I would have just drawn one of these last week against SpiderSpace instead of, that 3rd land in a row off the top, maybe SpiderSpace's not pushing for an undefeated run through the Modern Streamers League tonight, but that's not how it shook out. There's the extra land, and I think this one is all over right now.
Yep, that's
just Spike.
That's just Burn, though. I mean, Burn is you live by the top of the deck, you die by the top of the deck. I mean, if you draw 1 too many lands, there's nothing you can do about it most of the time.
Sometimes those decks feel great. Burns like that. Eldrazi's like that. Sometimes they don't feel good at all when it doesn't come together. Cryptic Command going to come off for SpiderSpace. He'll be able to counter the burn. Now, where does he go? And what?
I'm trying to figure out what outs that SpiderSpace has. Drawing that land would have been nice, but Exquisite Firecraft dealing an extra point of damage because it deals 4 instead of 3. It's like that effect where you're like, I'm at 4 life. I could totally win the game next turn, and your opponent top takes a Boros Charm.
Right.
That extra point of damage that it deals is just so good.
Well, and SpiderSpace just highlighted his real nemesis. That Batter Skull is trapped in his hands because Smash to Smithereens not only destroys it, but deals him damage as well. That would trigger the Swift Spear, and the game is over at that point. So now we'll see SpiderSpace. He's going to fire up the Creeping Tar Pit.
Yeah, the only line I could say is he could block the Eidolon. I don't know how many Vendilion clicks he has. He can try to draw another Vendilion click, take the Smash away, or he could try to draw another Spell Source. No, but he needs another Fairy. This is tough. He has 2 Vendilion clicks in his deck, so he could try to draw a second one, but then he's just going to... This is rough. This is just so difficult for Spider.
Spider putting the hand up like, do I maybe have a chance here?
No.
Now, if he had a chance at all, it looks like it may have gone by the boards. He doesn't have the extra blue card to force for free on his opponent's turn. If that Stoneforge Mystic was a blue card, maybe we'd see something here. But
I mean, he could play the Stoneforge, chump block, and then hard cast the Force of Negation. But the Exquisite Firecraft is
uncounterable.
Yeah, so... sorry, SpiderSpace.
So, yeah, SpiderSpace is in trouble. No matter what card he plays, he's dead.
Yeah.
And I believe he has figured that out. That was a rough matchup for SpiderSpace. He didn't have the flow of cards that he needed that would match up well with the threats that Burn was able to level in the hands of Garrett Martin. And a main deck Smash to Smithereens, certainly a key copy in game 2. And suddenly Team Fire burns the house down, and they find themselves up 2-1 and 1 match overall. Sean Seacrease along with Kevin Wang and TheSaintDoom, Mike Goldenberg. Thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of the Modern Streamers League. All right, SaintDoom, That was pretty brutal as Burn just showed its teeth. We've talked about it becoming one of the pillars in Modern. It's certainly one of the decks most players want to make sure they're not going to be beaten by routinely. But with static decks over a 3-week period and known deck lists, that one seemed to play right into the hands of Garrett Martin.
Absolutely did. Garrett's main board Smash to Smithereens really paid off there. It didn't pay off as much against me because he didn't draw it. But having that Smash to Smithereens, as you can see, put him in a spot where he just couldn't lose. When SpiderSpace looked at Garrett's hand, I knew it was over. He knew it was over. We all knew it was over. That hand was too good. It stopped Batterskull from winning. It was just a rough spot, rough matchup for SpiderSpace, and I'm pressing the button now. Team Fire up 47-46, which I know I talk about it a lot. I know I could talk about it probably more. This is so close. Like, this is down to the wire. We opened up after 9 weeks of play, 45-45. Like, I just can't get over how close this league has been.
The only thing I could say about Spider is...
Well,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just said both teams have represented well week to week. We've only seen a couple of weeks where it's been dominant one way or the other. Other than that, it's been very close. So I'm not surprised while we're right here. And SpiderSpace has been one of the guys that Team Ice has frankly relied on. Yeah,
I mean, I think that match was pretty much when you see those commercials where you see like a firefighter coming out of a burning house and his hair is perfect. That's SpiderSpace. He might have lost the match, but his hair looks still pretty good. So,
well, you want to talk about somebody who knows how to play to the camera? We've got Noble Murloc coming up next. He is going to take on Robcaster Mage. Is doubling time going to have its day in the sun? Are we going to see a double up, or is the control from the Jeskai deck of Robcaster Mage just going to be too much? The MSL is brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. You see any tech that you love on the MSL tonight, each can take care of you in their preferred domain. We'll have that showdown between Noble Murloc and Robcaster Mage coming up in round 4 next with the Forecast of Doom. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the Forecast of Doom. We have a really exciting one here because Noble Murloc is on doubling time, which uses doubling season in a lot of planeswalkers to gain a very powerful, overwhelming board state. Robcaster Mage is on Jeskai control, one of my old favorites, and this is going to be more of a tempo matchup against this really grindy planeswalker-centric deck. I've highlighted the most important cards in this matchup, and those are Robert's counterspells, 2 Force of Negation, 4 Cryptic Command, and 2 Logic Not Main, with a Force of Negation and 2 Vendilion Click side, which I anticipate both will be coming in. This matchup is all about playing, for Robcaster, it's all about playing at instant speed, dropping an instant speed threat, countering the spells you're worried about, bolting the bird, and getting to a state where you can just out-tempo and eventually bolt, snap, bolt your way to victory. Noble Murloc, on the other hand, is going to try to make this game last as long as possible because Karn the Great Creator, Gideon, Renin 6, Ashiok, Teferi, Chandra, all of those planeswalkers gain you value over time the longer the game goes because Noble Murloc has all of these inherently built-in powerful 2-for-1s and 3-for-1s. He will win the game if it goes long. Robcaster Mage will win the game if it's short. That's the Forecast of Doom. That's my prediction. Let's see how it all plays out.
We have had 3 dominant, lopsided matches so far on night 1 of week 10 of the Modern Streamers League. Will we be in for 2 grindy affairs? I think if we're going to see them tonight, Kevin, it's going to be in these next 2 rounds, starting with the Jeskai control of Robcaster Mage taking on doubling time from Noble Murloc. We'll see this from Team Ice. Noble Murloc's point of view, he's putting on his doily, apparently. He's got his gamer hat ready to go. And we're going to see some emoting in the screen cap for Noble Murloc throughout this game. He's already taken a mulligan. Looks like he's going to be satisfied here. He's got the potential of a turn 1 mana dork should it live. And that would mean an early card if he wants to go that way, or maybe down the road an early doubling season. These are the plays that he's going to be looking for, Kevin.
Yeah. Noble Murloc is definitely one of the most entertaining streamers to watch. Get to see him do the little noble shimmy, the noble flex here. Him
flex quite a bit.
Wow. I just kind of want to see deploy the K-Watch cast in this game. That's all I want.
I'll take you behind the scenes. Once we started the pre-show production tonight, Kevin was just asking about, can we see deploy the Gatewatch? Can we see deploy the Gatewatch? So hopefully we'll get to see it. Renin 6 is going to be a spell snare check, 2 in the main for Robcaster Mage. And if it comes up here, it's big. And he's got one at a key point, and Noble Murloc unhappy.
Yeah, so now Noble has access to 2 4-mana walkers and a 5-drop in doubling season. He really needs a land off the top here to gain advantage. And Rob tapping 1 mana means he's not going to have Lodging up. So, and he drew up Birds of Paradise.
That's not going to feel great, but it will open the gate to a potential doubling season next turn. And when you start dropping planeswalkers with doubling season already out, it means instant ultimates.
Yeah. So he can get a Logic Not check on the first spell, but then he's gonna, that extra turn cost him. So now Rob can have access to Cryptic mana, Cryptic Command mana the following turn now. Oh, but he's tapping out. Ooh, Electrolyze. That's rough.
Good. Wow.
Oh, that's...
That was a potentially back-breaking play against Noble Murloc. Noble Murloc's deck consists of 21 lands. He does have the additional 8 mana dorks to go with it. He's got 11 more, so he packs actually 32 mana sources. But right now, he's having to deploy the second Oath of Nissa just to find land number 3. And as good as things looked a moment ago, Kevin, now they're looking a bit bleak for the Murloc.
Yeah, that mixed land drop. He could have had a Walker on board and plussed it and getting out of bolt range, but now he can't even cast any of his spells.
And this is the downside to taking this sort of bigger mana risk. in Modern. If your mana doesn't develop, then you're just sitting here with a handful of 4s and 5s. The one good thing for Noble Murloc's deck is Oath of Nissa means that when it comes to his Planeswalker, color is not an issue whatsoever, but he needs just raw land count.
Yeah, now Rob has a clock on the board. God, that electrolyze was so brutal. That was probably the best electrolyze I've ever seen. Just the fact that it was a 3-for-1 and it just cut Noble Murloc off casting a spell for the next 3 turns is just insane.
We've seen some 2-ofs come up big so far for Robcaster Mage. Electrolyze is a 2-of in the main. Spell Snare a 2-of in the main. He had them both on the ideal turn here in game 1, and those have come up big. And when Jeskai controls card options come together like that and really match up with what their opponent's trying to deploy, the deck it can feel impossible to beat.
Yeah, and I think this is where having access to open mana is good here, because he knows that he can bounce Noble Murloc's 3rd land, and I bet you Rob's just guessing that Noble Murloc just hasn't casted anything the whole game. He has at least 4 mana walkers or even more expensive ones.
Now 6 mana for Robcaster, that could be, well, that's going to be Teferi, and now he can hold up Logic Knot off the plus. That's going to represent a hard counter. That would have also represented Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command in the graveyard. 6 is one of those numbers that not a lot of decks try to get there in Modern, a 6 mana. We've seen another one tonight in Titan, but you look at Jeskai Control, Kevin, once they get to 6, the combination of cards they can play in one turn is just so devastating.
Yeah, especially with Teferi that get to untap lands. And this is Jeskai Control 101 here. In your card advantage off your Electrolyze, sculpt your hand, make your opponent has no board state, and then slam a walker to just take over the game and accrue more card advantage. This is
played exactly 1 card since that Electrolyze, and it was a backup Oath of Nissa.
This is goofy blue cards this man owns. Attack 101 here.
Oh, Noble Murloc might want to get his comfort blanket because that hat's not doing enough for him.
Yeah, that Jigglypuff hat is.
Be down 1-0 any moment. Now, interestingly, if you haven't played a deck like Noble Murloc is playing, Doubling Season plus Samut is an instant ultimate to go get 2 other Planeswalkers out of your deck and most likely have access to their ultimates immediately. So that's the Samut kind of Doubling Season combo. I've actually played around with iterations of this deck and like it. I built mine a bit differently than the way Murloc has his, but I mean, we're just slicing useless hairs at this point, really, just to have some fun. Game 1 goes to Robcaster Mage. Noble Murloc's going to be back on the play in Game 2. Sean Seacrease, Co-Diamonds, Kevin Honeybear Wang with you for Round 4 of the Modern Streamers League tonight. Kevin, where do you see Murloc going here? Is 3-ball going to be good enough to try and slow down some of the options for Robcaster, or does Murloc have to look different places?
Yeah, I don't know how good Trinisphere here is in this matchup. I guess he's trying to stop Rob for double spelling. I don't know. I mean, you're the Planeswalker master here. What would you do?
I didn't know Noble Murloc suddenly snuck onto the broadcast. He was here last week hanging out with Visquis87 and TheSaintDoom. And well, if you have not had your fill of some of our fantastic celebrity players here on the Modern Streamers League, all I can drop on you is be sure to be here Wednesday night for the final night of Season 1. Something special coming up, and we're all looking forward to it here on the Modern Streamers League. This is something that's tough. You know, your Ishkana is not going to do much in this matchup. How much good is Leyline doing? This deck from Robcaster's not looking to burn you out, not looking to use Thoughtseize. That feels pretty useless. Now you've got a land light draw. Now you've got an action light draw. And Noble Murloc not seeing his deck cooperate so well here in this Round 4 matchup with Robcaster Mage.
Yeah, because he has like 3 Rest in Peace, which only stops Snapcasters. Engineer Explosives, it doesn't really do anything. Ensnaring Bridge, Rob doesn't really care to attack. Settled Wreckage is only for aggro. Leyland is Sanctity. Rob doesn't have anything to target against discard. I can only really see like a Walking Ballista maybe, because with Doubling Season, it's pretty good to like kill off walkers and just kill Rob. I can maybe see Ishkana to try to grind, but his deck is already built to grind anyway, so I don't really know how he could exactly board here. And now just bolting the bird here in this situation is just so good for Rob here because you're stone raining Noble Murloc here, and that's just so good when mana is a premium in Noble Murloc's deck.
Yeah, we mentioned the 32 mana sources that Noble Murloc packs. 21 of them are land. We saw off the Oath of Nissa, he had to go for another land. He's got the third land in hand, so he's going to be able to deploy Trinisphere if he so chooses here. This can't get spell snared, so I think it's probably Murloc's best play.
Yeah, I guess Trinisphere does stop spell snares now, but then he can still have access to spell snare in turn 3. This is why I was kind of questioning boarding this in, because by the time you play this card, Rob already is not going to tap out anyway. I guess it does stop Faeries plus in a sense that he's going to untap 2 lands and he's not going to be able to cast anything on that specific turn. But I don't know. I think I'd rather just have a walker.
That feels like tightrope walker narrow there.
Yeah, exactly.
You're working hard to make this Trinisphere as impactful as it can be.
And I really want this to deploy the Gatewatch to get cast, but Noble Murloc has no white mana.
Noble Murloc right now, just head in hand. He doesn't have the juice that we've seen him perform with in some other rounds when he was winning with Zoo early in the 10-week run, or his other creative decks, later in the run. It's been a lot of fun to watch, but this is a tough matchup for a deck like his.
Mm-hmm. See, now this Trinisphere isn't really doing anything because Rob can cast a Logic Knot. Doesn't stop him from casting spells. 3 minutes for an office.
Yeah,
it does stop it up. That does actually, I guess, work, quote unquote. But I feel like Noble would rather just have another threat. I feel like, I don't know.
We'll see. Maybe this is going to give him the chance to bounce the enchantment, replay it, and find another threat. He's going to go for the plus instead.
Yeah, he definitely wants to plus because he doesn't want Teferi to get bolted. And Teferi just stops all the counter magic here. So I think he just wants to prioritize just having the Teferi stick and just be a static ability more than trying to gain cards off of it.
Not close to deploying the Celestial Colonnade as an attacker. However, 3 quick tokens, 1/1.
There's the 1 white mana. One more white mana. Please, just get that deploy out there.
We're the doubling season, and we could see Mardu's deck do its thing here.
Please.
4 white mana, and we'll see 2 Planeswalkers hit the board, double their loyalty tokens upon entering. Where are the Sand Warrior tokens going now?
Come on, no.
Murloc. Watching as the Teferi is attacked down to 3. Is that going to put it into bolt range?
Yeah. We'll see if he has it. Or Lightning Helix, which is fine. I'll take the Lightning Helix because that means he can't cast Logic Knot anyway. Like, yeah, it pretty much has a Mage Teferi on the board. Birds of Paradise. That's the second time he drew Birds of Paradise when he needed a land here.
Well, when you put 4 in your deck and you put 4 Noble Hierarchs and 3 Sylvan Caryatids, you run a pretty high risk of drawing them in the later stages of the game.
And Birds of Paradise costs 3 mana too.
You talk about the worst opt you've ever seen. That might be the worst Birds of Paradise ever played.
Oh, no.
Especially if it's burned off.
Yeah, and now Rob just has a clock and he can just hold counter magic here. This is rough.
Yeah, the Teferi is gone, so his counter magic is now all live again. I mean, if you're Murloc, this is what you built the deck for. You've got to jam, I would imagine, when you've got the opportunity to deploy what in essence would be a combination that would give you a chance to set up either an instant kill or get so far ahead, because deploy the Gatewatch would get 2 Planeswalkers to put him in play. One of those, you can then get a Samet. She would go get 2 more, and it just becomes this cascading advantage.
Please don't take the deploy. Rob, please do me a favor and don't take the deploy.
Yeah,
No.
if he doesn't, then Teferi comes down in ultimates immediately. How good will that be? Will the game go long enough for that to be the difference? And he does push the deploy.
He took. Oh, damn. Because I saw the 6 land. I was like, he has a chance.
Doubling season means the Fairy can go right to 8.
Mm-hmm.
He will. And an immediate card draw by Noble Murloc to get rid of the Vendilion Click.
I mean, Noble Murloc can definitely grind his game through down.
Colonnade, with a land draw next turn would represent 7 damage and make it a 1-turn clock. He's going to get the click.
Yeah, and this is where burn might be a factor here. Oh, he doesn't attack the Colonnade. Rob is...
He's got other plans.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's going to have the Colonnade when he untaps next time. That would be the permanent I would look at here if I'm Murloc. He is, in fact,
second doubling season. Is this one of those situations where the second doubling season just isn't as good as the first?
Absolutely. Because once you double up, I don't know if you need to double up again.
Noble's draws have just been super awkward here.
Yeah, and conversely, Rob Castermage has been able to pick up some key tempo cards. That Lightning Helix was a nice pickup. That's going to take this down to a quicker clock.
Yeah.
Is the game going to go long enough, Kevin, for the Teferi emblem to be a big part of it?
I don't know. If Rob keeps peeling burn spells here, it might not even matter.
And right now, if he's got Snapcaster Mage in hand, that could do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Bird's going to have to get defensive, as is the Hierarch, and that is not what they're good at.
Yeah, I don't know if Noble should have blocked there, because he's in bolt range anyway, and I think he needs the mana.
Another 3-mana opt, which means that Murloc should get to untap here. What can he find? What Nahiri.
Okay. Should he be killing these tokens? I don't know if he should be killing these tokens or not.
There goes the land. Now we're going to see.
Is this a Vendilion Click?
Or is. Oh, this is. Oh, it's a 3-mana opt.
Oh, God. These ops are so expensive.
This is not what you have in mind. Is 3-mana. Look at the top card, decide to draw it or put it on the bottom.
Yeah, see, this is where I think he should have.
Okay, so he can get another trigger off of the emblem, or he can go immediately for the ultimate. Now, we used to see this. Okay, I was wondering if he was going to go for the Emrakul trigger and get the instant annihilator, but this doesn't assure him of seeing another turn.
No, that's why I was saying he should have exiled one of the tokens. So then he's not facing lethal. Oh, no, you do the math. Never mind.
Okay, so that's not red for a lightning bolt. And also with Trinisphere in play, now you're going to see, I would imagine, a token exiled on this draw. And he needs some interaction. And that is a huge draw.
Oh, my God.
Noble Murloc with Nissa, who shakes the world. She's going to be able to make the 3/3.
Oh, my.
Actually, she would be able to ultimate as well, and that's going to do it because doubling season doubles the counters on everything. That's a 6-power attacker, and Noble Murloc finds the backdoor way. That was getting to the penthouse through the cellar door on that win by Noble Murloc. What an amazing comeback.
What a boss. Noble Murloc is a god amongst men.
That game, Kevin, looked unwinnable at one point. And then we see the power of doubling season with Planeswalkers. Nahiri, that's a play that I've pulled off before in a much different shell. But, Nahiri to get Emrakul is not a play that's foreign to Modern. Has it been a minute since we've seen it? Absolutely. I'll grant you that. But you see the power of that interaction.
I was waiting for Murloc to do his little flex and his shimmy. I was waiting for him to do that.
I don't know how confident he's feeling. The fact that I mean, that's really it. If he would have done it, think now he's on the draw for game 3 as we are tied 1 apiece between Rob Castermage for Team Fire on Jeskai control and Noble Murloc on his innovative double time for Team Ice.
I think I have PTSD from game 1, but I kind of wanted him to fetch the Temple Garden here. So he can have double white for Deploy the Gatewatch for future turns, hopefully. I just want to see Deploy the Castle. That's why. I just want double white for sure.
Well, he's got a chance now. If we see Wrenn and 6 hit the board, he's got the fetch land. That's going to ensure a seamless flow of lands for Robcaster Mage. I think, does he go for Wrenn and 6 or does he go for Sylvan Caryatid? He's going for the biggest play. Will he get spell snared? This is huge for Noble Murloc and Team Ice.
Yeah, so this is kind of where Noble Murloc can kind of gain advantage here, because now Rob has to deal with a Wrenn and 6, but then Noble can continually start streaming out these walkers, Teferi, Nahiri, and then the big Teferi. Like, he can actually kind of curve into his threats. This hand is perfectly set up to take advantage of having this Wrenn and 6 resolve.
Yeah, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop Planeswalker all coming up. The only thing Murloc is missing at this point is a doubling season to just go bonkers with these Planeswalkers. See the power of Wrenn and 6 reusing the fetch lands.
Mm-hmm. So now we'll see if this Teferi resolves. If this Teferi resolves, then that's a big game. Oh, he's going to play for the Caryatid.
I mean, that felt like feeling out your opponent for a counterspell.
Yeah. But I don't think Rob's going to want to counter any of these things. I feel like maybe Noble should just go threat and just constantly try to just force Rob to have it. This kind of just gives him an extra draw step. Because Teferi is a must-answer threat here, as is Nahiri,
sure.
as is
It does let him skip from playing 3-mana Teferi this turn to playing 5-mana Teferi next turn if he chooses to.
But 3-mana Teferi just opens him up. Like 3-mana Teferi just negates all counter spells.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would have been the better play to say, just to curve into the rest of his hand.
So my question for you is, okay, Robcaster Mage obviously knows Murloc's deck list. There are open deck lists. But when you play Vendilion Click and you see that hand that he just saw, what are you thinking?
He's better to have a counter spell here. And see, he Vendilion clicked the Teferi away. I mean, I think Teferi's the best card no one has access to. Oh, the wear and tear on the Oath of Nissa is huge.
Still one fetch land in hand for Murloc. So I would imagine that he could go get a white or a blue source in order to set up his future plays. But that is going to take away the ability to utilize the Wanderer that we see in his hand.
Samet.
And of course, any color can be had from Sylvan Caryatid as well. Mm-hmm. So he's not as bad off with colored mana as we may have thought for a moment, but really only Ashiok out of reach right now. Samet is going to be immediately lightning bolted, and she will take down the Vendilion Click.
Yeah, so now next turn. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's starting to clear some cards out of Robcaster's hand at this point.
Yeah, Rob only has 2 cards in hand. But he's getting close enough to where if Noble Murloc lands a Planeswalker, he can pressure it with his Colonnade.
Now, Noble Murloc looking in Game 3 to pick up both sideboard games, and there's another key Birds of Paradise off the top of the deck. I say that facetiously because, Kevin, he's drawing those birds at just horrible times.
I like leading with the Ashiok here because it stops future fetch lands. It kind of forces Rob to counter it, and then you can kind of clear the way for Nahiri. Ooh, Snapcaster Rage.
Snapcaster is going to come down, and are we going to see a bolt here?
Maybe Lightning Helix if he has some mana. Yeah, Lightning Helix to gain the 3 life.
Helix is good. And, we were giving Murloc a hard time, but maybe this bird is exactly what he wants. Now he can throw the bird down, maybe block the Snapcaster Mage, keep the Ashiok around for one more turn, or he could go Nahiri here.
Yeah, I like the Nahiri here just so he can just have multiple threats somewhere, and that's what you want to do against these control decks. You just want multiple threats to overload on Rob's removal, especially since Rob only has 1 card left in hand.
Here he can dump the Birds of Paradise and draw, and that Jace is a nice find.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a Robcaster Mage, provided you have the 5th land, do you tap out to threaten these Planeswalkers with the Celestial Colonnade? You know, what's going to be better? Trying to control them or representing control magic?
I mean, you could also just go for Noble's Face here. If that's 6 damage, and that's double bolt range.
Yeah. On the context of the game and what you have in hand, sometimes the face is the place.
Yeah, because now Colonnade can take Noble down to 1. That turns off all of Noble's fetch lanes as well.
And Noble has no answer right now for the Colonnade.
Mm-mm.
We're going to see Jace. This Jace, Architect of Thought. I believe it is the non-creature spells available to Noble Murloc. 2 Nahiri, 2 Tameo, 2 Samut, 1 Chandra the Awakened Inferno, 2 Karn the Great Creator, Teferi 5, Teferi 3, Renin 6, Nissa who shakes the world, who won game 2, 2 Gideon Jura, which would be his absolute best draw right now, I believe. The Ashiok, a Sarah the Benevolent, which we haven't seen much of, 2 Jace AOT, the Doubling Season, and the Deploy that Kevin's been rooting for all night.
Yeah, I think I saw Noble board out the Gideons here when he was sideboarding. Does he have any outs here? Transfer.
And now Robcaster Mage looking like he might have the win on his fingertips. Noble Murloc, not the package I think he wanted to see. Karn versus 2 lands. That's a no-brainer for Robcaster.
Yeah, see how I mentioned that I would rather have a walking list in the Trinisphere? I believe I did my math right. He has 9 mana. It could have been 4 +1/+1 counters on a walking list, so that could have taken care of that Colonnade to protect himself. This is the board state that Noble wants to be. He's just at too low life.
What sideboard targets? He's got an Ensnaring Bridge in the sideboard that Karn could go get, and Murloc could deploy here. He's got plenty of mana.
I would not have expected Ensnaring Bridge to be clutch in this matchup, but it seems pretty clutch.
You know, Noble Murloc has succeeded in doing one thing extremely well in his win, and I think in this game too, Kevin, and that's working a game that didn't look like it was in his favor into this little narrow corner of interaction where he is favored. And now if he can go get the Ensnaring Bridge, provided it's not countered, he'll have this right where he wants it.
Yeah. A card that's missing that's from a lot of Karn wish lists or stuff like Sorcerer's Spyglass, Engineer Explosives. There's the Liquid Metal Coating that can kill lands, and that could have been one, but that might have sealed the deal. That forced negation. Oof.
And now Murloc with no instant speed interaction in hand, and he's going to concede as Robcaster Mage. We mentioned Robcaster's Mage hand got really, really lean toward the final stages of that game, and having the Pact and the blue spell to play it in Force of Will mode came up to be clutch in that situation. Trinisphere was in hand, and it wasn't deployed so that the Pact would have been turned off. This was just a dominant play for Robcaster Mage, and now we'll see the final steps as Robcaster Mage is going to activate the Celestial Colonnade. Noble Murloc knocked out of the frame by the final attack from Celestial Colonnade. There he picks himself back up, shows us his hat. Very, very dapper. Look, he goes down in defeat to the Robcaster Mage, and Team Fire picks up another win here this evening. Noble Murloc, he's had interesting decks. I mean, he resurrected Zoo to begin the league, which featured a card that was banned at the outset of Modern for being too powerful. And that was the mean green one-drop kitty. But that era seems to have gone by. Noble Murloc did book a win with Zoo Burn back at the beginning of the league, but another innovative deck in doubling time from Murloc. And Mike, this has been an interesting Modern Streamers League. We've seen decks at their absolute peak of power, certainly one we're going to see coming up next in Grixis Shadow. We've seen all the Karn, Amulet, Titan decks. We've seen Cats with her Spirits deck, Cat Light. And we've also seen some innovative decks as well, which has been fun. And Murloc showing off what's possible in Modern.
So Murloc's brews always have some strange spin to them, and I say that with fondness. His zoo deck brought back, like you said, an earlier era, and his deck right now just brings back like that was kitchen table Magic at its finest, and that was so fun to watch. Then my brews, on the other hand, have all just been either a devoted druid shell with druid card in season 1. Or right now I'm playing with a black-white X Stoneforge shell that I've been playing around with, which is just like a mid-range Jund shell, just fair magic, Thoughtseize Inquisition. But no, Murloc has just had really fun decks to watch. And really fun mannerisms to watch also.
Yeah, I think what would be fun for a series, the two players, one on each team that leaped to my mind that took that approach to this season were Noble Murloc for Team Ice and Matt Hurley, who plays under the name Tryhards 3 from Team Fire. They both really kind of let their inner kitchen table player out and just built with their heart for this Modern Streamers League, a league, I should say, that was shaken up in the middle of our very first season by the bans of Hugak and Faithless Looting and the other rulings that were handed down from Wizards. So it's been fun to see these different perspectives on Modern.
Yeah, I was playing against Matt. Sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. Just how, if you just look at season 1, Catlight was on Is It Phoenix? We had we had a Hogak, like we just in the Jund, we just had so many different things. We had Faithless Looting decks, and now we're the Stoneforge Mystic league right now. But go on, Kevin.
Yeah, I played Matt last week, and I was just chatting with him about his deck, and it was just such a cool combination of synergy. Like, you normally have like a mid-range deck, and it's just good cards jammed together, Stoneforge Mystic, Thalia, Discard Spell, whatever. I just liked how he kind of like had more synergy based in a mid-range shell versus having a mid-range shell with some subtle synergies on top of it. He had delay with Spell Queller and Teferi. I was just like, I was kind of looking through the deck list. I'm like, okay, Teferi, okay, Spell Queller, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, delay. And I'm looking at his deck list, and I'm like, oh, Teferi stops all of that. That's insane. And then he has Wasteland Strangler with Spell Quellers, and the Wasteland Stranglers can combo with the delay. There's all these little, it's synergistic then mid-range more than mid-range and synergistic, and that was really cool to see.
And you'll get to see both Matt and Kevin coming up on Wednesday night on the final night of the Modern Streamers League. Speaking of finals, a final chance for anyone in the MSL to derail TheSaintDoom coming up in our feature match. Will we see a 10-0 in the very first Modern Streamers League season? It is all going to come down to the matchup between Dido, and I'm going to go on record and say this right now. If there was one player, now the deck matchup might favor TheSaintDoom a little bit. We'll get the breakdown coming up. If I was going to pick a singular player to maybe derail SaintDoom, Dido would be high on that list with his modern expertise, his capability with that deck in his hands. So this may be the stiffest test you faced yet. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you've seen any tech that you love tonight or have heard about any of it, including delay, it might need to be added to your deck. You can pick up your digital copies at Card Hoarder and your physical copies from Card Kingdom, who help make the Modern Streamers League possible. Round 5, our feature matchup. Can TheSaintDoom go 10-0? We'll have the forecast of Doom and the match coming up next. This is the Modern Streamers League.
Welcome back to the final forecast of Doom this evening. We have a very special edition because it's the Doom of Doom. So I am SpiderSpace on Mardu Dreadhorde against Dido on Grixis Death Shadow. Now, just on paper, I am slightly favored in this matchup. Dido and I talked about it before, and it's probably around 60-40 on the Mardu side. It could be a lot better on the Mardu side if instead of running things like Lightning Bolt, I was maxed out on Path to Exiles and Fatal Pushes. But this deck is built more around Dreadhorde, and I wanted the guaranteed value with the Lightning Bolt, so I don't have those. So I'm a little bit worse against the Grixis Death Shadow. The key card in my side, Game 1, is Liliana of the Veil. If I can resolve a Liliana of the Veil, Dido's chance at keeping threats in play is almost non-existent. Liliana of the Veil is almost always a 2-for-1, sometimes even a 3-for-1 in this matchup, and she is the card I'm going to look for more than anything else. The second most important card is probably Lingering Souls, which can block for days. Now, I had to figure out, and I asked a lot of people on Team Ice to try to figure out, is Dido going to side out TBR against me? In a particularly grindy matchup, TBR is not very good. Temur Battle Rage. However, I run Lingering Souls and I go wide pretty well, whereas a card was when you want Temur Battle Rage. Now, if Dido sides out Temur Battle Rage, then Plague Engineer out of my sideboard is an amazing card I can bring in. If he keeps in Temur Battle Rage, Plague Engineer is good, but not great. It's a 3-mana chump blocker. I went on the assumption that Dido is maybe going to keep in 1 as a way to reach. I'm going to have to see what he ends up doing. But my sideboard plan has a different play draw. You'll see, from my perspective, you'll see what I end up doing, how I end up siding that out. But the key cards I'm really particularly looking for in my sideboard are Young Pyromancer, Plague Engineer, and that other Path to Exiles, because I really have no way to deal with Death Shadow and no way to deal with Garmag Angular save for Liliana of the Veil. I'm really kind of nervous about this one. Dido is an amazing player. That's my forecast. Let's see how it all plays out.
There is no way I'd rather end night 1 of our final week, week 10, than with a chance to see the lone undefeated run through the Modern Streamers League. Sean Seacrease along with Kevin Honeybear Wang. What do you think? You know, they talked about it before the match between SpiderSpace and Dido. Both are very honest in their assessments of Modern. Both are very honest in their assessments of how decks interlock. We talked about it a little bit leading up to this one, Kevin. Lingering Souls, probably going to be a key feature. And we see from TheSaintDoom's perspective, he takes the mulligan, opens up on the Thoughtseize. If he's going to put together a win here, I think that we're going to see some controlling elements. Even though these decks don't feature blue, or the traditional control color, they do have controlling elements, and we see that Thoughtseize going to be key early for Doom.
Yeah, it'll be fun to commentate this match because all the nights I commentated, I haven't commentated a Thoughtseize deck yet, so it's going to be fun to actually commentate something that's within my wheelhouse. SpiderSpace Thoughtseizing and taking one of the Gurmags is kind of interesting here because for Grixis Death Shadow, it's difficult for them to deploy 2 Anglers back-to-back easily. So I think I might have been tempted to actually take the Snapcaster Mage or the Fatal Push because you know this game is going to go long. And especially since he has the Lingering Souls to block the Anglers when it goes late. Just taking a card that Dido has 2 of and he can really only cast 1 is kind of an interesting take here. I'd like to ask him later why he took that card.
This was an interesting question for Doom early because he knows about the Fatal Push. He knows the Stoneforge Mystic isn't likely to live. If he gets Batterskull, it's going to be stranded in hand. Instead, he goes for a sword, which he can deploy. Lingering Souls carry swords very well. And Sword of Light and Shadow, this is going to be very interesting on how this comes down. I'm sorry, Sword of Feast and Famine is going to be very interesting on how it's used.
Yeah, so he got a Sword of Light and Shadow, and at least when you play Stoneforge Mystic and Legacy, if you know you're against a removal-heavy deck, you actually fetch the 3-mana source just so you don't lose that card advantage in a sense, because it's very difficult to get to 5 mana in that format. So I can see why he fetched the sword to kind of be able to deploy it and not lose that card that's so valuable in this matchup where card advantage matters a lot.
So it looks like Doom has conceded the first hit from Zombie Fish. So he's going to take 5. After that, he'll have a turn where he can decide, okay, do I want to go Lingering Souls? Now he's not going to get the opportunity after Inquisition. So now he's a couple turns away from this Batterskull, and suddenly it looks like Gurmag Angler could threaten to finish this out, and a land off the top is not what SpiderSpace wanted to see.
No, what he can do is he could flashback Lingering Souls and he equip it with the sword, and now he could block this Angler with the Spirit and be push-proof via Snapcaster Mage. Because that was a second push off the top check, and if not, the Snapcaster isn't going to do anything because now the Spirit can't be pushed. So now SpiderSpace's kind of in a good position here now, where he can just block this Angler for days.
And that's one of the really unheralded advantages of Lingering Souls is it does work against these Thoughtseize Intuition decks because you can play the back half of it from the graveyard. Yeah, you only get half the card, but you get something that's more than nothing. And with the threat to be able to block now, as well as in a couple of turns go Batterskull, equip Batterskull to the Germ token, he's still not out of this game, although that was a great turn for Dido.
Yeah, now, if you really think about it, that Inquisition hurt Dido a lot because SpiderSpace only had access to 4 mana. So if he didn't cast Inquisition, SpiderSpace can't play Lingering Souls and equip. He needed to pay for the cheaper flashback cost. So that Inquisition hurt him a ton. So now he has a Spirit with a Storm, which is huge. Having 2 tap lands in hand is kind of rough because he can't deploy the Batterskulls. Hopefully the Thoughtseize hit something. Ooh, a Snapcaster Mage. Yeah. Oh, that he knew about. He knew about the Snapcaster Mage.
That is a big pickup. So how does Doom navigate this turn? He's going to go ahead and get in with the Spirit, with the sword equipped, unequip his, or untap his mana, and that'll allow him to deploy the Batterskull.
Because he could have done one line, because if he knew he had the Snapcaster in hand, he could have played a Stoneforge Mystic that he brought back with the sword and equipped it.
It's a sort of Light and Shadow, not Feast and Famine.
So he could have equipped. He could have tapped out for a Stoneforge Mystic, had another mana and not played a Thoughtseize, and equipped another creature with the sword. The thing is, how scared are you for Snap Fatal Push? He'd have 2 blockers. Yeah, so that was actually the better line here, because then he needed to take the Snapcaster away.
Well, this is a lethal attack from Dido, so SpiderSpace is going to have to make some concessions on the blocking front. He will have to throw both out as speed bumps at this point, and Dido, he's pushing a lot of pressure here. The Batterskull is just a 4/4 on its own.
Yeah, but that sword might be game here if he goes for it, because it'll be 5 power plus the shock effect from sort of Fire and Ice.
You'd have to sell out for it. And I think Doom has to be thinking about, okay, open deck lists. What are his possibilities to interrupt that chain as we look at Dido? So we know that Fatal Push is off the table with protection from red. Dismember is, or protection from black, excuse me. Dismember is off the table in that situation. Kolaghan's Command, I have to imagine, is the one he's worried about because it targets the equipment, not the creature, and the equipment itself doesn't have the protection.
Yeah, got to make him have it. I like the line. You just got to attack and make him have it.
Does Dido have it? This is an early showdown. The fact that we're resolving triggers says no, and Doom is now going to be 1 win away from 10-0. He gets game 1. Dido had a great opening. That mid-game slowly inched its way towards SpiderSpace, and then the extra sword just without a K command to defend Dido, and the extra trigger off of Fire and Ice was the decisive moment in that matchup in game 1. Now we'll see TheSaintDoom for Team Ice looking to sideboard his way to a second victory. Sean Seacrease along with Kevin the Honey Bear Wang. And Kevin, as you watch your teammate right now, do you like the choices he's making?
Yeah, we actually debated a lot about how we should sideboard. We were thinking about trimming the Stoneforge Mystic plan if Plague Engineer is good in this matchup, because you can tap up for a Plague Engineer, and if Dido just goes, okay, I'll just TBR over the Plague Engineer, then you just tapped up for no reason. It's kind of hard to evaluate because you don't know how exactly your opponent's sideboarding. In these mid-range mirrors, how your opponent's sideboards can also dictate how you sideboard as well. I do like the Angrath's Rampage, the Path to Exiles, the Young Pyromancers to kind of make more Lingering Souls to go more wide, because going wide is what won SpiderSpace's the game. We also I agree with trimming Bolt here because Bolt isn't that great, doesn't kill anything, and Dido is too good of a Magic player to go below 7 life to where he gets double bolted out of the game. That being said, you do want that reach, so I agree with keeping in X amount of bolts, just you don't want the whole playset.
We'll see if these sideboard substitutions work out in TheSaintDoom's favor. Now, other than the fact that he could go 10-0 with one more win, SpiderSpace and Team Ice need this match. It's 3-1 Team Fire so far tonight, and we came in deadlocked at 45 match wins apiece through 9 weeks for our two teams. Right now, Team Fire is up 3-1 tonight. A 4-1 edge heading into Wednesday would be nearly insurmountable and give Team Fire the league. But a win by Doom would mean it's only 3-2. So this is a huge match for Team Ice and for Doom himself. I can't imagine the kind of pressure he's feeling right now, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I am stuck between a rock and a hard place because SpiderSpace's head is already so big from being 9-0. It's like I kind of want him to lose. Actually, I really want him to lose, but I kind of need him to win just for us to have a chance at this game. So I don't know how I feel right now. I kind of don't even want to watch. It's a lose-lose situation here.
Your potential to win Team Ice's teammate of the league just went down the tubes with that admission. You know that, right? That's you got to root for your team in this situation.
God, if there is a Vegas line that if SpiderSpace was 9-0 at the beginning of the year, it must have been like 20,000 to 1. Out of all people,
stop short from calling you like a locker room cancer that has to be traded. So, and I'm not going to go that far. You got to support your teammate a little here. All right, Bob comes out for Doom. That is not going to be allowed to stand. Fatal Push is going to go after the card advantage engine that is really sort of surged in Modern at times and then fallen completely out of favor. Bob, Dark Confidant, named for Bob Maher. Kevin, it seems like it's either a 10 or a 0 in this format.
I think before, I guess a year ago, where John was kind of peak, I don't think there's enough mid-range cards that you can kind of make a choice between Dark Confidant and something else. But now that you have Ren and 6, you have Dreadhorde Arcanist, you have Dark Confidant, Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, etc., Stoneforge Mystic, your 2-drop is pretty congested, and I think Dark Confidant really needs to wax and wane between. It's a meta call. Like if there's a lot of big mana, blue-eye control, non-Ren and 6 mid-range, I think Dark Confidant's great. In a meta full of burn, I don't think Dark Confidant's great. And right now, not outside of the league, I think outside, like just in Modern as a whole, I think burn is a really good deck right now, especially against these Urza decks that have been popping up. So I wouldn't really necessarily sleeve up Bob's right now, but I wouldn't say Bob's a bad card. I feel like a lot of people are dismissing Bob's. Oh, Dark Confidant's bad in Modern. It's not bad in Modern. It's just Modern has to be a certain place for Dark Confidant to be good, and right now it just depends, and that's my answer to that.
Dreadhorde Arcanist coming down, and the Arcanist, he's going to have some food to eat in the graveyard if he ever gets the chance to attack. We'll see. Got the Plague Engineer as well.
SpiderSpace had an interesting line where he could have led with either a Dreadhorde Arcanist and try to shred Dido's hand, or lead the Dark Confidant and try to recruit card advantage. And it's also kind of a removal bait. Like, do you want your Dreadhorde to survive or your Dark Confidant to survive? Oh, and the Plague Engineer, Lingering Souls, so brutal. Oh my God, look at that board stick by Dido.
This is quickly turning in Dido's face. And TheSaintDoom with the clip art message frowning at the one of in his opponent's deck. This is a case where Arcanist does not look very good against this board. It's a 1-3 with trample. Great if it has a sword or a batter skull, But right now, this is not an impressive seat for Doom. So it looks like we're going to go to a game 3. We'll see how this plays out. He does have the sword in his hand, which would give him infinite blocks against one of these large attackers for Dido. But right now, Dido is the one going wide. You said it won it for Doom in game 1. It's going to win it looks like, for Dido here in game 2.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're talking about if Dido should side about the T-Burn Battle Ragers or not. And if you have a Plague Engineer, then you definitely side with T-Bears because you don't need it. You just wipe out the go right strategy and just kill your opponent.
One win apiece here in our final round tonight on the Modern Streamers League. For TheSaintDoom, who's playing right now, and Kevin Wang, I'm Sean Seacrease. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you're enjoying it. We will wrap up Season 1 coming up Wednesday night. 5 more matches, and the league title going to be on the line. TheSaintDoom looking for a personal 10-0 with a win here in Game 3. He and Dido kind of agreed that SpiderSpace's Dreadhorde control deck, Dreadhorde Mardu, was about a 60-40 favorite coming into this matchup. We're even at 1 game apiece going to game 3. You see Doom on the play with that Mardu Dreadhorde deck. And right now, that Inquisition going to rip a Death Shadow out of the hands of Dido.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think I might have gone for the Plague Engineer because that's like you want to play Liliana of the Veil and you're kind of forcing your opponent to sack one of the big threats. And it also, if you top deck a Young Pyromancer or Lingering Souls, they're just live. Then again, if he plays a Plague Engineer, you're forcing your Dido to tap out for it, and then you can play your Liliana of the Veil through a Stubborn Denial. I kind of want to talk to him again and see why he opted to take the Death Shadow. Because he's kind of did this, he was in the same scenario where he had double threat and a value card, and he opted for the kind of a duplicate threat opted instead of the unique effect in Dido's hand.
Now we're at an interesting spot here where we saw Dido go for the Inquisition in game 1, put a Lingering Souls in the graveyard. SpiderSpace used the back half of the card to ride his way to victory. Here with Liliana of the Veil plussing, Dido gets to throw something into the graveyard, which is essentially an additional mana drop when you're looking at making Gurmag Angler. So he could be accelerating his opponent to an early 5/5 here.
Mm-hmm. So now it's interesting that Michael discards land. That's a tough choice because if he discards land, he can't double 2-drop. But he can't exactly double 2-drop because the opponent has that Plague Engineer in hand. So it kind of nullifies him playing the Dark Covenant in general. Yeah,
both of his 2-drops here would be human if he went for Pyromancer Confidant. Arcanist going to come down. That's immune to the Plague Engineer potentially. It has no power if he selects that, but it would still survive that round.
Yeah, so Dido doesn't want to cast the Angler. He kind of wants to double spell also. He kind of wants to go Engineer Angler so he can kind of have a threat that can threaten the Liliana. Yeah. Oh, and the Snapcaster Mage.
Snapcaster. Going to flash down.
Yeah, so the Snapcaster Mage also protects his Gurmag Angler from Liliana, but he doesn't know that SpiderSpace has a Plague Engineers. So Plague Engineer has been clutch both sides, assuming it resolves.
Yeah, it's on that short list of Modern Horizons cards that really change the format.
Mm-hmm. Just being a static ability is just insane because it wipes the board and strands cards in hand if it has 1 toughness. So the SpiderSpace was just getting a lot of value out of this Plague Engineer.
You'll see him go humans first. Mm-hmm. That'll kill the Snapcaster. Then I imagine the Liliana is going to go tick down. There goes the Gurmag Angler. And now he can really start to, he being SpiderSpace, if he can take a turn and set up Pyromancer Lingering Souls, even a land draw would allow him to play Pyromancer plus Liliana, play the back half of Lingering Souls, get the 2 souls and the trigger off the Pyromancer, and really start going wide with Dido at 6 life.
Mm-hmm. And have a Liliana at 2 loyalty too, and being able to pick off Dido's threats. And Grixis Death Shadow is a pretty threat-light deck, and seem to be able to answer Gurmag Angler and a Death Shadow. That's already 2 threats. So Dido's going to be struggling to try to find an answer to Liliana and Plague Engineer and have a threat to win the game.
You see SpiderSpace on camera. Has his hands clasped in front of his mouth, which means either it's extremely cold where he's at and he can't afford heat, or he is invoking whatever overbeing that he finds comforting and really praying for this win and the chance to go 10-0.
No, Dido.
The team stripes showing once again for the Honey Bear.
What did your name? Did he name Spirit? The opposing Dido's. The second Liliana. Wow.
This is going to be fabulous for SpiderSpace. How does he want to proceed? Because I think he would want to get the opposing Plague Engineer off the board before playing his Lingering Souls so that they would stick around.
Yeah.
This one is far from over, even with Dido at 6, as we play the final game of Magic of the Night. Team Fire is up 3-1 so far. TheSaintDoom not only looking to draw it as close as possible for Team Ice, but also to go undefeated in the league. He elects to go Pyromancer, and the secret sort of unused mode on Liliana, 0 for pass.
I like this line here. Oh, he plus discard souls. But I like this line because
souls. It was at 1. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, I like this line here because he's pressuring Dido to attack the Liliana, but then he's kind of stuck in a hard rock and a hard place because he has to either attack the Liliana and pretty much lose the Plague Engineer on defense, or keep the Plague Engineer back and it'll just die to the Liliana. And if SpiderSpace top decks a white mana source, he has lethal. So I actually really, really like this play. It kind of forces Dido in a really, really bad spot with this Plague Engineer.
Yeah, I find myself in this position a lot where I have 2 bad choices to make. I prefer the aggressive bad choice. So I think I'd rather attack here, make SpiderSpace trade for something so that I get some value out of it. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you're trading it for the Liliana, I can understand that too. If Doom has to -2 the Lily, Dido can't know that Doom has a backup Lily in hand. So it's in a really tough spot right now. Mm-hmm. Dido has been one of the sort of air quotes end bosses for the league with his great plays. We'll see if Doom can find his way around. Now, here's the Death Shadow, and that waste, not exactly what SpiderSpace wanted.
This is kind of a weird spot again where SpiderSpace is going to play the Liliana. He's not going to not. And I guess he has to minus here to kill the Plague Engineer. And then I guess that forces Dido to not attack with the Shadow. And Death Shadow is one of those tempo decks, and tempo decks do not play good defensively. That's an awkward Bauble as well. Bauble is great to ramp into a Grimrock Angler, but it's an awful tough deck because it's a delayed draw. So if he had another... Oh, and then he conceded. Wow.
And that is a 10-0. He must not have liked what he saw and knew there was no way out because you were going to see Doom go wide on the next turn. He had the Lily as well and an undefeated run on the first season of the Modern Streamers League. The man who put the league together, put together 10 consecutive wins. The Mike Goldenberg, the TheSaintDoom. As if he thought we wouldn't talk about this tonight, he had to make up a clip art 10-0 to reward himself with. All right, congratulations are in order. Let's bring TheSaintDoom in now to join us on the post-match analysis. Your own teammate was trying to throw you under the bus, but the decks were just too strong. 10-0. It's an amazing feat. Congratulations on the win over a tough opponent tonight in Dido. But think back to all the matchups that you had at 10-0. Which match do you think you were most fortunate to win? Which one did you feel like, okay, even if it was week 1 or week 2, you were thinking, okay, this is a bad matchup and I'm going to need some help here?
Last week, by far.
Against Garrett?
Against Garrett with Burn.
Yeah.
I knew that if he was double spelling, there was no way I could win. But he had a handful of 2-drops and he was stuck on 2 lands in one of the games, and I really needed that to happen because if he had a bunch of 1-drops, then there was nothing I could do there.
Congratulations. I mean, your own teammate was trying to throw you under the bus. You're going to have a talk with Honey Bear.
I have something very specific to say to Honey Bear. Something very, very specific. Actually, wait, where is it? It's somewhere. Oh man, I can't exactly find it. Oh, Oh my goodness! Oh, thank you, Kevin. Oh man. Oh.
Oh,
I am
fantastic.
so honored that being 10-0 and just carrying you, Kevin, through 10 weeks of this league. I'm so honored you would give this. But you know what? I'm more interested in Team Ice winning than this trophy. So I'm honored, but I'm going to decline, Kevin. So thank you. But
I think the important thing that we've just learned is that after being that brutally exposed, Kevin has opted out of season 2 of the Modern Streamers League. So there'll be an opening as he just doesn't want to hang out with Doom anymore. Kevin, are you going to be able to live with your teammate after this?
I just want to know how much you paid off Team Fire. Let's be real here. This is not possible. The odds of this happening
isn't regulated by the NCAA. We'd be in trouble right now.
So I do think it is incredibly unlikely. There's certainly some lucky breaks. Like I had to get lucky against Garrett. I happened to have a incidentally really good matchup against Gal when I mulliganed really aggressively for Karn when he was on hardened scales. I mulliganed really hard against Ryan on Vizquiz, and he did not mulligan as aggressively for a removal spell. His stance was if Mike has a turn 3 win, he has it, and I had it because I happened to mold a 5 for it, and he's like, there's no way he mulled a 5 and has it. But that's exactly what Devoted Druid decks do. So, I mean, it hasn't been... There have certainly been some lucky breaks, as you're going to get in any tournament. There's no player in any tournament who's ever been 10-0 and has said, oh, yeah, I earned every single win. I didn't get a single lucky top deck at all. No, God, that's not the case. I'm happy it was me instead of Kevin being 10-0, but...
all the players in the league that could have gone 10-0, I think you were the least person I wanted to.
Yeah.
I knew you were never going to hear the end of it.
Final question about the 10-0. Have you ever played a GP, any large event, and gone 10-0, or is this the first time?
I've gone 10-1. I've gone 10-1 at a 10K. Ooh, that's I never realized that both have 10s, and I won that entire event. I think I ended up being 11-1 overall. I ended up.
The thing about that's what's impressive about this 10-0 is the fact that like you're playing in a league where everyone is pretty good at Magic. You play into a GP, and my friend jokes like the first 3 rounds are essentially buys because you run into players that aren't seasoned with Magic, but everyone in this league streams. Everyone in this league plays Magic a lot, and they know the decks in and out. And I feel like this 10-0 is has a little bit more validity to it just because of the skill level that's higher in the league compared to just a normal GB or a 10K.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's what a teammate should say, Kevin. You're building him up right now. I like it.
No, Michael, you suck. I hate you.
Oh, it's back.
No, take the trophy away. Take the trophy away. No.
I get to see what memes come up out of Kevin giving Mike the trophy here after going 10-0 on the Modern Streamers League. The Modern Streamers League, of course, brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. Wherever you're going to play Modern and however you're going to play it next, they both do a great job of making sure you have all the tech that you need. All right, Kevin, you just held it up. What'd you get from Card Kingdom?
Foil Colligan's Commands. Great against Urza and Stoneforge Mystic.
Wow, that is a rich man's pickup. Congratulations on the Foil Colligan's command rolling in for you. And if you're going to play online, of course, Card Hoarder has everything you need there as well. Now, Mike, remind me, there is something on the line, as it's just one match separating our two teams heading into Wednesday night, the ultimate showdown here on the Modern Streamers League. Team Fire is up 148-47 in the match win column. Of course, they've been playing for A21, an organization looking to end human trafficking worldwide. Team Ice looking to make a comeback for the Cancer Research Institute, which looks to end all forms of cancer around the globe. What do our two great charities have on the line with the way this plays out on Wednesday night?
Well, to be completely honest, this is going to be a really close matchup no matter what. And I had never thought that I might have to anticipate a tie. We had no preparations for a tie. But if Team Ice wins 3-2 on Wednesday, we could be looking at either a perfect split, which 50-50 would be unreal, or we could be looking at something to the effect where one team, one charity wins everything we have so far, which would be anything that's been donated to the league. I haven't compiled that information yet. Any of the sub money, all the money that's been subbed to the Modern Streamers League is going to the winning team's charity. So
if this wasn't for charity, I would mandate that the team captains play off in some goofy format if it ended at 50-50 to decide it. But with this being for charity, if it would happen that way, what a feel-good story to know that both these great organizations will be supported. You can see that coming up on Wednesday night. Honey Bear, you got anything to leave us with before we see you play on Wednesday?
Honestly, it's a win-win situation. Like, even if we win or we lose, it's for a good cause, and all the money goes to great causes here. So 821 or the Cancer Research Society. So they're all great.
Are you going to stream tomorrow ahead of your match on Wednesday?
I'm going to try to, so we'll see.
Okay, you can
if
check
not next week.
Right here. Co Diamonds, Kevin, Honey Bear Wang, and TheSaintDoom. You going to be celebrating with a stream tomorrow?
I might be celebrating with a tomorrow night stream. I'm pretty excited. Probably not going to be playing too much more Mardu. There's too many really good green cards that I'm excited about. And green is probably my favorite color in Magic because it has Noble Hierarch, Tarmogoyf, Devoted Druid, and this weird 6-drop called Primeval Titan that I've heard is pretty good that we saw.
With the horrible mana base, right? With the horrible mana base.
You just can't get over it. Well, once upon a time, we saw a player go 10-0 here in the Modern Streamers League, and you can see the exciting end to our first season coming up Wednesday night. Plenty of surprises in store for the cast as well. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us here tonight. The Modern Streamers League brought to you by Card Hoarder and Card Kingdom. For Doom, for Honey Bear, for you joining us, thank you so much. I'm Sean Sechrist. Have a good evening, and we'll see you on Wednesday.